Well, we're getting close to getting into conference play in the Missouri Valley Conference. But before you do that, you really have to play some non-conference games. And today we're talking with Loyola head coach Alicia Abbott. And coach, looking at your non-conference schedule, first of all, I want to be on your team because I would like to travel with you. You guys went to Florida, you went to Arizona, I think North Carolina, and tested your team early on. So talk a little bit about the logistics and the thought process that goes into setting up a tough non-conference schedule.
Yeah, I think a lot of it was, one, how do we go play in some warmer weather and get a real feel for it, right? But honestly, I think in the past, Loyola hasn't necessarily had the toughest preseason schedule. And I think a lot of trying to change the culture of how we approach conference season is, hey, let's go get them. Let's go at them, right? When we scheduled Florida State and Arizona, I don't think when we got on Arizona's schedule, it wasn't necessarily the other four teams were as tough. We didn't know who it was at the time. But you go to Florida State, and at the end of the day, it's, hey, how do we compete? Right? How do you step on the field, keep composure, compete? What was really exciting, I think, for our players was getting to play at Florida State and then going to Arizona, right? Because you have two huge stages. But at the end of the day, I think they were able to take what they learned, even though the scores necessarily didn't reflect that, right? From how do I keep composure? How do I act like I belong a little bit more against Arizona than I did against Florida State even. And then honestly, it was just great for them to get the experience of like a large facility, of, dirt throughout the entire preseason, and just play some teams that they wouldn't see otherwise around here. So really kind of mixing that up.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great, just looking through it, it was a great competition and a great way to set your team up. So having played those games, I guess it sounds like, kind of the mental side of it, you get the big stage, you get them ready to play. Where did you see the biggest growth with your team after playing that schedule?
I think in all honesty, and our stats will not reflect this whatsoever right now, just the approach at the plate is entirely different at this point in season than how we started, right? What pitches I'm going for, what pitches I'm looking for, how to take a ball, how to go for a strike, right? And just what that looks like up and down. And I think that's where we had the most room for growth, in all honesty, which made it great. But I do think the other piece too, and the invaluable side of it, is just the experience for our freshmen. We have two freshmen on the mound, and you can't ask for better. Like, hey, welcome to college. Let's go. Let's get after it, right? Then you're number 2 and number 10 team in the country at the end of the day. And both freshmen had the ball in each of those games. So
yeah, great experience and great learning, and can only pay dividends down the road. So looking ahead, we're heading into conference play. And so really you've been at Loyola 3 years, but this will only be your second Missouri Valley run through the conference because we had the shutdown.
correct.
So that was kind of crazy. Once you got hired, you only got a few games under your belt, and then we had the shutdown. But what's your overall, just being through the conference one time last year and then looking ahead to this year, overall assessment of the Missouri Valley Conference and how the league stacks up?
There's so much parity year after year, right? And I think even now, I would say before you could look at the Valley and be like, hey, the top is very good, the bottom, maybe not so much. And I just think there's so much less discrepancy between the top and bottom at this point, right? Like you're getting the parity of like, hey, you're going to step on the field. And Valpo, for example, is doing great, right? Like Valpo has done so good. So it's anybody's game, which is so good to see, right? You're going to find solid pitching and offense against every single team you play, right? So it's basically whoever shows up that day and wants to win a little bit more is pretty much who's going to win that day,
Yeah. I mean, and again, I've said this before, and that's why we're here. That's why we play softball, and that's why we love softball, because anytime you step on the field, it's anybody's game, and you just have to bring your best game when you show up. So let's talk about one of your players, Madison Eveling. last year had a great season. Off to a pretty good start so far. What's she bringing this season, and where is she at, and what do you expect from her as the season goes on?
I think what's crazy for her and experience, right, is that she hasn't, like, again, to reflect on the schedule, she hasn't necessarily played a tough preseason schedule yet. So I think for her, her numbers are down, right? But it's, hey, why are our numbers down? Let's realistically look at why our numbers might be down, right? Because at the end of the day, she's an incredibly prepared player and walks into most games with a game plan like, hey, I know what this pitcher throws. This is how my plan is to attack her. Let's go get it, right? So she does a great job of just showing up every day and having the expectation of what she wants to do and is actually seeking to do that, right? And again, I'm going to reflect on, I don't think her numbers are where she's used to them being, right? Which is a good thing. It's a great problem to have. And just reflecting in that conversation of, hey, you've played 6 games against top 50 teams in this country right now, right? Like, of course your numbers are going to be a little bit down. That's great. That's what you want. Let's go get it, right? Brand new season starts. And then just defensively, she's so solid. Like, you couldn't ask for a better defender out of her. So I think it's just, how do we figure out how to keep that up and keep that moving through and keep her healthy?
Yeah, that's always the key, to keep players healthy when you have somebody that plays the way she does. So your pitching staff, talk a little bit about what we should expect in the circle this season.
I think, again, we have those 2 freshmen who are a little bit inexperienced on the mound, which is great. We have Sydney Ruggles coming back, who's a huge piece, had a great season last year. So we're just really looking to build off of that and keep her going forward. And then those 2 freshmen really complement her very, very well. And quite frankly, they're so different. So all 4 of our pitchers are so different from one another. What's great is that we can play a little bit of Moneyball almost of who's the best matchup. And I don't know if any of them right now are an ace. They all have ace capabilities, right? But we're not resting on one arm, which is great to see, right? So honestly, to be expected is all 4 pitchers getting in most weekends.
So. Yeah, nice problem to have.
It is
that you have that many arms. So one last question. I was reading that you guys do personalized gloves, and that has been a tradition with this team, probably, I think, since before you got there. But just talk a little bit about that and what that means to the players.
It's so fun because I think, right, like, your glove is your baby at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And we have a team who's very defensive focused. So I think that also plays into it, right? But at the end of the day, I get to make a piece of this mine, and it's the same way they can approach a team, right? Like, every team's going to be different, and what am I going to bring? The same way their gloves are like that, right?
Yeah.
So obviously you can't do any wild colors in there. They're sticking to our traditional colors or brown, right? But it just kind of reflects on what their personality is. They all say, I need to have a white glove one year. Not all of them want it every year, though. And then I think some of them try to keep some gloves out of use more than other gloves, so that way they can maybe put them in a box once they're done.
Yep.
In a case. Yeah. So it's just a fun experience for them to get to do and show off their personality.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's great, and it's a kind of a fun keepsake to have. So, well, Coach, heading into conference play, and it's going to be a fun ride and a fun season. So wish you all the best, and look forward to seeing you down the road here over the next few weeks. So good luck with the season. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Laura.